What's up, guys? I am back with a different type of video today. This video is going to be about the 3 Ratchet Clank games that came out on PlayStation 2. Now, there were some other ones, but if this video does good, in view-wise, and I will do the next 3, which will be Ratchet Clank Size Matters, Secret Agent Clank, and Ratchet Dreadlock. But the first 3 I want to talk about is Ratchet Clank 1, Going Commando, and Up Your Arsenal. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about these games is because these games are the reason why I got into video games. I played the second one first, but I want to go in order. So, I want to give my honest thoughts about the stories and the movements, the gameplay, and how they function as a game as a whole. So let's start off with the first one, which is what you're seeing right now. I've played tremendous hours these games on PlayStation 2. They still look good to me in this day. Yeah, some stuff could be changed, but for a game that was made in 2002, you have to give props to where this game is at as a whole. And that's where the charm comes into the game. You got the great voice acting, the great story of what they first started in 2002 to just making a great game. Insomniac did a great job. I love Insomniac for giving us a great game that still holds a very special place in my heart. And that's between all 3 of them. Not just one or the second one or even the third one. But for what they did, I am just very pleased with what they did and the outcome. The mostly positives will be about just the way it runs. If from 2002 to now, it's 2026. That's literally 24 years, and this game still runs better than most games. Yeah, is there some stuff that they could have improved? Of course, but they didn't need fancy updates or daily stuff to keep us entertained. This game can keep me entertained for quite a while. Just run through the story. It doesn't need multiplayer. Doesn't need battle passes. This game just has that charm. And I mean, for a game that literally is about a space Lombax, which looks like a cat, that literally runs around the galaxy collecting bolts with a backpack robot that attains weapons. Does it get any simpler than that? No. It's just fun, breaking crates. I respect the developers for what they started off with, because this was the stepping stone for a franchise that has expanded. I can't even say expired. Yeah, they haven't made a new game yet, or revamped any of the games, which I hope they do. Insomniac developers, if you're watching this, you guys would make great money revamping this franchise. Yeah, they did a remake, but or it was kind of a reboot, I want to say, but a remake of this perfection would just blow people out of the water, and then the way that when you finish the story, you get a new game plus, which is common in a lot of Insomniac games. You can restart where you were with all your weapons and stuff and all your equipment. Not all the equipment, because most of the equipment is story based, but most of your weapons and a little bit of your gear you restart with, and you achieve for something different. This game started off very simple with just, oh, you beat the game, restart it. But we're going to make the enemies a lot tougher, and with the gold bolts that you find, which are secret little things that you find throughout the maps, you can obtain gold weapons, which is pretty cool, because it's a little cosmetic thing of oh, you achieved this, well, here's another achievement. It's like achieving gold in Call of Duty. You just have fun with it. And then, not to mention the little puzzles they did and little side quests of the hoverboard races, the little key unlocks that you do, or the weapon stuff, little mini games in this game that make it a little bit more fun. And just for a stepping stone again from a game built just in 2002, it's a lot more than what we get in some games where it's just repetitive stuff. But this game and the ones after up until I want to say Dreadlocked. I want to make it also abundantly clear that I didn't play a lot of Ratchet and Clank's newer ones. I did play like one of the new ones, and it was pretty fun for what it was. But these ones hold a very special place to where I could replay them for hours and come back and love or hate some of the missions that you get. But overall, I come for the music, the overabundance of cool little ammo drops that we get, that most games don't give us. I mean, yeah, in the second, third, and I think a few beyond, we get like just the same ammo like drops, but this one was very innovative to give us specific ones that are like, oh, tailored to this weapon, so you know which ones you're picking up, or it knows which one you're using the most. So it's kind of cool that they do that. That made it different, and I kind of wish they kept that up in the later games, but you know as we go later on throughout the videos, you'll understand why. Overall, this game is, gonna have its problems. It, them bumping it to newer consoles, it had a lot of like maintenance issues of like the codes and stuff. So a lot of the like cutscenes or something will lag, or you'll get a bunch of like out of place sounds, but that's just the way it was. They were just trying to make games and move on to the next. Not like today, to where they get massive updates to fix the games. No, they had to deal with what they had, and I'm not mad at that one bit, because this game is 24 years old. That's crazy, and I'm like, I started this game. I think I started playing these games when I was like 5. So it's like, it's crazy because we didn't appreciate that much. And moving as fast as we are in gaming, it's good to go back and see what built these franchises. Like Insomniac building this franchise. It's insane to think about. Overall, this game's still a 9 out of 10. Story, gameplay. I think the only gripe I would have is how Ratchet acts in this game. If you don't know, you can watch gameplay trailers or gameplay, videos all over YouTube. This is just a little, let me glaze this franchise for what it started with, and it's just overall, that's the only gripe I have with this game. Mostly, it's just the way Ratchet acts in this game. He kind of does a little bit better in the sequels. Has a better like tone. I think again they were just going for the buddy cop thing between Ratchet and Clank, and they kind of did it a little too weird, but they did it a lot better towards the end of the franchise and beyond, because again, they really struck gold and they knew they had to keep going. So kudos to this Insomniac back in the day, all the developers that worked their butts off for this game, because it is a great game and the franchise in a whole. But let's start off next with Ratchet and Clank Going Commando. Now, Ratchet and Clank is a very interesting game, because this game is kind of like the Spider-Man 2 of Ratchet and Clank, the series, because this game literally took a lot of big steps. Now, I'm going to explain all of them step by step. So the first one was the armor system. Now, Ratchet didn't have armor in the first game. It was all just you gained helmets and boots to help you progress through the stories. This one was progressing through a lot of more side, like, gadgets and stuff to progress the story in a sense. But the armor system was so much better. You started off with the green that kind of lasted you up, I want to say like maybe 5 to 10 levels, and then you found armor like vendors, which is kind of like the weapon vendors. And when you found them, they were going to be priced, because again, you're buying armor to upgrade yourself, to make yourself look better. And it does suck, because sometimes this game was kind of greedy with the bolt system, and it sucked because not too much bolts came out of anything. Now, this goes back to, they wanted you to grind for it. Like, you go to planets and you just have to keep progressing through and look for secret stuff. Just keep doing the same thing, which makes it so much better. But the thing that really sucked was you really didn't get much, and until you progressed through the story and got the box breaker mod, which kind of helped you destroy a lot more stuff, it really didn't help, because again, you're already halfway through the story. and I don't think you got it until like I think like the second to third planet out close to the end of the game. So it really just sucked because you would have to go back through each planet and destroy stuff, and that's what the box breaker thing was. Is anything that had bolts in it, you could destroy, and it gave you a certain amount of money. And then the new game plus was a again a new thing that they tested was doing the double bolts amount. So if you didn't get hit or you destroyed a lot of enemies, it would go up by twos. But the only problem was is if it just really felt like close to the end of the again your second run, you didn't have many bolts to upgrade your weapons. And this is where the upgrading system came in. You upgraded your armor and then you upgraded your weapons. So for this game, it was only one upgrade. You upgrade your gun once because of all the nano tech that you picked up, which is the same for your health, but I'll get to the health in a second. The nanotech would help you upgrade your weapons, which made a pistol turn into like a big machine gun, a grenade launcher that turned into a nuke, the plasma coil, which started off as a small little pistol plasma coil, turned into a big one that would attach itself to other enemies. So it really did help that that became a new system because again you need it for what you're about to go through because these planets did not mess around. They upped the progression of, if you're going to go to new planets and learn about this galaxy, because it's a new galaxy, it's set in a new universe. Or not universe, it's set in another. Well, pretty much, if you think about it, it's a new universe, but it's the same characters. It was going to be tough because, again, you're upgrading your weapons, your armor, your health got upped a little bit from the standard. I think it was like 8. Now, if you see mine, because I have played this game a lot and I have beat it, I think on this save, I beat it like twice or no, once. Sorry, it got a little crazier, and this is I think with like the fourth armor set that you get, so it did take a lot. And again, just upgrading the weapons is so cool because it has a cool little animation that you get that makes a noise. You get a little cutscene with it that stops the gameplay for a second, so it does help you not get like destroyed by something. And each game after that decided to do the same thing, which I'm not mad at because it gives you a purpose to want to upgrade your weapons and use the same weapon to get the upgrade. It was kind of like how COD does the upgrade system of like you get a cool little noise, a little sound effect, but this one did a cutscene. So this is what made it so much cooler. But let's start with the health next. So in Ratchet and Clank 1, you only had 4 things of health. And as you kept progressing and in New Game Plus, you were able to get maybe like 2 more at the end. So you were left, I think, with like 8 things of health. And this one, it did the same thing with your or not the armor, the weapons. The more nanotech you obtained by defeating enemies, your health would go up with the same thing with like your weapons. So towards the end, you got like a decent amount of health. And if you didn't upgrade your armor, the more enemies you took on, it was gonna destroy your health. So like if you get hit by like a boss or something, it was gonna affect it a lot. Like this armor set system that I have now, the more I played in the new game plus, it was gonna hurt a lot more unless I upgraded to the fourth and the last one. So it was more or less you had to. Now, if you guys are wondering too why his helmet in cutscenes grow big, apparently there was a glitch that happened when they kept upgrading his the games to new um, systems. It would, it was just a glitch. They couldn't figure it out, and they didn't want to like contact Insomniac to fix it. But the one thing I loved about this game was just how many more. It felt like this one had a lot more maps and planets to go to, which I love because it just felt brand new. And again, this is the first game I started on, so I was like already into the Ratchet and Clank, and it was just so much fun. And then the other thing I loved about this one is the strafing. So you see how his character runs in like a weird, like little frantic mode of his legs going a different way. Well, that's the developers giving you more movement, and that's what they wanted was you to feel like kind of like a commando. Like you're gonna strafe, you're gonna want to dodge a little bit better because in the first one, the only way you can lock on enemies was if your weapon had it, and I think if the weapon called for a lock on, but most of them didn't have it. So you were left to aim down sights a little bit. And again, aim down sights back in the day was a little bit janky. So you didn't want to stop to do that. This one, this game gave you a lot more to do with your weapons. So you can unlock mods that helped with the lock on system, and your gun got progressively better. So a lot of it did have a lock on system that was a lot better. And with the strafing, it helped with the lock on mod system. So again, this game took great steps to help you achieve being a badass in the game, which really helped the game be just great. And it helped because you got to do dogfight missions, and you can also upgrade your ship, which also made it cooler because it just felt new. Because in the first game, you had to jump from ship to ship. You didn't get your select ship. This one, it gave you a select ship, and you got to upgrade your weapons, your shielding, and the way you did that was finding, I think it was called not plutonium, but it was called a crystal. It was a crystal type. So there's like 4 different crystal types you progress through in different maps. So there's a desert map that we got that had pink crystals that you would sell to a guy to upgrade or to get bolts. And then if you got into a ship that dug into the desert, you were able to get these type of different crystals that would help you get more upgrades for your ship. And then in the dogfights, you got the same thing if you killed I think it was like just a random enemy. So it did help that. What I did like about this game, though, is that it gave Ratchet stuff to do by himself. So you didn't rely on Clank. Yeah, and later on after this mission, because he was already separated from Clank, he had to obtain Clank. But the first, I think, is like 4 missions. I think you could do 5, but you have to get him to progress the story a little bit. It does feel better or feel cool to not rely on Clank. They designed those maps to be without Clank, and then once you got him, you can go back and find little secret areas or, come back with different gadgets. But what I do like is that they tested that, and then they gave Clank his own stuff to do. What I do wish from all these games, and I'm just going to say this right now, because I don't want to bring it into the next talk about with Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal, is I wish they gave Clank more stuff to do besides be, just generic. Like how Ratchet can use different gadgets to unlock doors and, progress through different parts of the map. I wish Clank did that. Not just progress his side and, just do his own little thing and make it simple. No, make it challenging. And that's what I kind of wish they did for Clank. But again, it's Ratchet and Clank, so they want you to get back to the action with Ratchet. Because, again, you can move a lot freely with Clank. But that's why I think he got his own game, and it did good for what it was because it was on the PSP, so the graphics were toned down and the movement stuff was toned down for that little thing. And I think it does did what it did. But for right now, for what they did in like 2003 again, this is just them saying this is what we can do and this is what we could have done, but this is what we have. So again, I'm not mad at that. I do just wish they did a little bit more with Ratchet and Clank with their own stuff. So the story is a little bit different, but it's way more different than the first one, because the first one was centered around the guy wanting to destroy planets to make the perfect plan. This one was designed about this megacorp corporation trying to sell a product, but it's run by a person with the worst track history ever. Again, no spoilers. If you want to see it, you can play the games or watch gameplays of it. But overall, I think this was a good, very good game to just get lost in, because again, the set pieces they did, the planets were so beautiful. Overall, the little mini games again that they brought back were pretty cool. You had 2 different locking things that the first one didn't. The first one only had 1 unlocking tool of mini games, but this one had 2 of them. The second one is a kind of a pain, because you literally, if you had a controller that did not move, it literally centers around an orb that you have to connect dots to, and it did not run very good if you had a bad controller. But I do love the progression system that they did in this one, and again, the bolts were kind of a pain in the butt to obtain, but if you were smart like me and just run around collecting bolts and just destroying stuff with the box breaker, it made it so much fun. And then the weapons in here were actually pretty freaking good. I loved all of them. I think again my favorite would be the Tesla coil because you can literally just bombard enemies and it would just lag PlayStation 2s back in the day. I mean, it still lags like my PS5 because it's just a game that was not meant to destroy so much in such a span a little bit of time, but again, for 2003, credit to the game to run this good and still, look just as good. Yeah, I mean, you got to give credit to where credit is due for the developers to create such an insane game. I mean, how many games could say they have little bolts and freaking lampposts after you destroy them, or light bulbs, or you know, give you the freedom just to mess around like that and destroy stuff and have fun. And then another thing about the progression system in this game is you got three different wrenches that did deal damage the more you found, or the three that you find. So, like, again, they took big steps in this game to really give us a very good gaming experience, which I love. Again, with the first one being, this one being the first game that I played, I cannot credit it enough to, I mean, just go back and play the first one. It was like, huh, so this is what they upgraded from. But you see the charm of the first one and what they started on, and to go to this one, to the third one, to the next ones, they just did everything they could to up the ante for you and make you feel like you are a badass. And that's what I love about these games. And you know, I can't credit Insomniac enough for what they did and PlayStation keeping it up. So I can say that this one's a definite 10 out of 10 for me because, again, playing this one first and just loving it, what else can I say? Um, so let's just get into the next one. The next one is Ratchet and Clank, Up Your Arsenal. Now, the last one for this review, or kind of like a little glazing, like I said. Ratchet and Clank 3 was a very interesting game because it was built in less than a year. I think the developers only had like maybe 6 months to get this one done. So there's a lot of reused assets from the second one that come to the third one. But the one thing that I do like about this game is you actually progress up a little bit higher. This one was 5 levels for your weapons. It wasn't just once, and then in New Game Plus it was 2. But in this one, you actually go up like 10 levels on your weapons. Yeah, the first 5 do show you the progression of your weapon. The third one, or like when you do New Game Plus and do 5 more, it just ups the damage up a little bit. It's kind of like upgrading in Black Ops Zombies nowadays, to where you just upgrade like maybe once or twice and it does a little bit more. But overall, this one, I want to say, was just copy and paste of the second one. I like this one again because of the weapons they did and the armor sets. So they brought back that, but the armor sets are a little bit better, and I just like the coloring of them. And you know, I think I just loved just chilling on this one. This one was more centered around multiplayer when multiplayer was becoming a big thing around in like 2004 and 5. So they wanted to test out the waters with Ratchet and Clank, and it, from what I heard, it did okay. It just didn't really sell well. Again, Ratchet and Clank is a story-based game, so why would you want to play multiplayer when Ratchet and Clank are Ratchet and Clank? So, um, I say this one was just a little bit lackluster with, like, I don't know, like it just felt copy and pasted. The UI is interesting, but you can tell again around 2004 and 5 they were going for like a more grounded tactical type look. It wasn't like really different, but for what we got, I am very happy with. And with 6 months in development, or maybe less or more, I got to give credit because a lot of weapons are in here. Again, when they said up your arsenal, it really meant you upped that arsenal. And good golly oh mine, I do like the weapons. And the New Game Plus was very interesting in this one because, again, you get 5 more levels of weapons, and to upgrade them that much is just so crazy. Because if you didn't upgrade, like, say, one gun throughout the entire, like, first playthrough, you come into New Game Plus, you literally will have that freaking gun up until, like, level 7 by, like, the, like, 4th planet. Because, again, you do fly through pretty much once you're done with the first run, but it's not bad. Again, this game did what it could, and again, with their focus on multiplayer at the time, it did make for an interesting game. And I can't be mad at it there's just still so much they could have done. And again, I think there's only like maybe like a couple of enemy types in this game, and it's all based around the Tyrannoids, which isn't a bad thing. But you only get like three variants of them. So you get like their regular versions, and then you get the robot versions because they do transform like midway through the game. Because that is a big story beat for this game. The villain in this was actually, I think the villain in this was a lot better, and I do like him because he was tied to like a character from the first game. So it did make sense on why they did it. Overall, the story wasn't that bad, but when you're using maps that they used for multiplayer and there's a few missions that are just, stay in one area and defend, it does make for a boring experience. But it's not really a bad thing because some maps are just reused assets from the first one because this one comes back to this galaxy that they left and you face the new threat. But what I do like is that they did change up the maps. They didn't just reuse some maps, and it made for a better experience in this one. And what I can say is that again, the weapons in this, the designs are freaking insane. Kudos to the developers, and when they brought back the box breaker mod, it was game over because literally there was just the same amount of stuff to destroy in this game just as the second one, or there was a little bit more to destroy in the second game compared to this one, but overall it's just overall fun to see. And you know the controls in this one do feel a little bit better than the first and second one, and you can tell which ones really went to. But I will say this one had a decent more boss battles, but overall, once they progress a little bit more, they did show a little bit more boss battles, which I do like because again, you need something to face compared to the first one and the second one. This one had a decent, I want to say decent better boss battles, but they were just cut and copy, and again, running on a short development cycle because they wanted to get this one out to compete with other games. You kind of see the rush development, and I can't be mad at it. Also, again, his helmet grows in the cutscenes, which is still funny to me. I find it funny because it won't be able to go to PC, so people can't mod it to help it. It could break the game too, but it's just so funny that that is a breaking glitch for a cutscene to have of his helmet just growing progressively bigger. And then I'm pretty sure it looked funny because again, throughout all the games, you earn cheat codes because if you do skill points of like, oh, destroy this one little thing in the map or break as much stuff as you can, it makes it so much fun to just get skill points and earn like little cheat codes. And again, you found them even in books. Like, how many of you actually remember cheat code books of like you had to write down this cheat code for GTA or something? This game kind of had the same thing in the beginning, and I think in the second one it kind of had the same thing. But it was just so funny to see that back then we had little cheat codes that broke the game or made the games fun or little cosmetics. But overall, this game is still fun. I still love it to the day I die. And the way this third one ran, it still runs pretty good to my eyes. I love the progression, and as much as it was a little bit more laid back, it still progressed the story and kind of ended Ratchet and Clank's little adventure for the time being because we didn't know if we were going to get a fourth one or not. And I will talk more about those in those videos, but for right now, these games really set a standard for gaming because you did progression, and you did your own thing in the game, which made it different. So overall, I will say that this game did what it needed to, and it progressed a lot more than what I expected. So kudos to the developers from Insomniac. I hope you guys do kind of remake these games and make them a little bit better, and you know, fix the glitch of, Ratchet's big old noggin getting big, or make it a cool little Easter egg in the game. But I would love a remake of these games and, fixing what they can to make it better and, maybe add a little bit more exploration because, again, in the newer games, they did explore that opportunity and it made it a bit cooler to do. So, Insomniac, if you do watch this video, or, you know, if you guys love these games as much as I did, let's get a petition started and let's actually get these games to be remade and better, or funner, just to have. I mean, we got the God of War trilogy being remade. Let's get the old Ratchet and Clank games that started a big franchise done. Kind of like Sly Cooper. We need some more Sly Cooper games, and you know, just bring back the goats that made our childhood a lot better. But if you guys like these type of videos of me talking about them and just giving them the love they should for, you know, 2000s games, I'm willing to do more. You know, games deserve the love they do because they made our childhood, and you know, we spent money on them to play them. So yeah, if you guys like this video, drop a comment of your favorite Ratchet and Clank game and your favorite moment from them, and you know, let's talk more about it. I'll catch you guys in my next review that should be up tomorrow. I do have a second video planned, so be ready for that video. I don't know what it's gonna be, but let's just take a swing and hope it's a hit. I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace.